The next hour and a half-ish, the idea is that it's more of a workshop, not more, it's been workshop so far, but we're going to try to do a workshop and be active. We'll see. Zoom always makes for some interesting challenges for being active. My plan is to be able to do a little bit about creating the physical characters of the storyline, and a little bit of what's special about the characters, and then address some challenges that we have faced ourselves when it comes to age differences, and then developing complex, what can we do to help develop these characters to be more complex, to help support, and I use this word now, transformative learning, as it came from part of our earlier session. And then the final, if there's any open discussions, we'll see if we have time for that. We have time for that. I am taking from the goals from today's program. There was four goals, but I took these particular two goals that I see. Whoops, you don't want to see that. That I see as part of this program, and that is technology. We're going to try to explore a little bit about technology, and then also to exchange ideas and our thoughts about particularly characters in the storyline, and how they can support transformative learning. I'm not going to spend a lot of time, but there's people that were shown up today that I haven't met. So my name is Ginny. I've been working 16 years as a physical educator. Have a master's in special education, but currently working as teacher education and professional development for teachers, already practicing teachers. And I work 100% at a place called the Norwegian National Center for English and Foreign Languages, which is based out of the University of Norway. And then I have some storyline experience. I'm getting more and more as I work with this group, as I work with the group at the college. Our college has quite a few people interested in the method and approach. So I've been able to develop my own experience on that, both at the school and then now as educator. So a little bit about myself and why I'm doing this. Being a language teacher, the characters in storyline just automatically appeal to me because of knowing how being in a role, talking outside of yourself can help language development, sorry. But in this case, in our case today, what I'm interested in is how these characters, or what hope that we're interested in, how these characters might support even more deeper learning, or that transformational learning, which goes into the emotional part of sustainability. Storyline characters are, I believe, one of the most important elements that make up a storyline. The uniqueness of storyline characters lie in that they're student-centered, or the student-centeredness of their creation. If you've ever worked with drama or other types of theater, there's a significant difference in storyline characters as opposed to regular drama characters, and that is that the pupils themselves, or the students themselves, create them. They're not given a role. They create them, they develop them, and ideally, as we saw with Magda's presentation, their roles develop even more over a long time to become part of the pupils and students. However, in my experience being out in schools and talking with teachers, the amount of time focused on developing these characters in storyline, it tends to be a challenge. And it's one of the first things that teachers out in the school challenge is how much time should we use for developing these characters. So what I want to do in this first part of this workshop is how do we start off with factors, or what I say, a framework that you as teachers, or we as teachers, have when we're trying to decide what kind of character we are going to make. If you see the pictures, there are just lots of different ways. So what is it that makes us decide what kind of characters, the physical making of the characters, before we start? So let's see if I can do it here. I'm assuming here that everybody is has done a storyline. And if you haven't done a storyline, then you can just kind of join in and either fake it or have your own suggestions as you want. So that can be. But question out there, what are some factors that might determine the framework for creating storyline characters? Does that make sense? What do you have? What have you done to address the factors that I say what kind of characters I'm going to make? And I have to, before we go into that discussion, I have to find my my Zoom, because I can't see anybody and it's going to drive me nuts. Because right now I'm looking at a blank screen. If you think about that, and I'm going to see if I can find my Zoom pictures, because it's got to be somewhere here in my. Daniel,
maybe you shouldn't share your whole desktop. Maybe you should share.
I have three screens, and I think maybe it's behind one of these screens that I'm not seeing. Give me 2 seconds. I'm going to see if I can find it, because normally I've been able to do it, and I'm going to stop share and see where you go. I'm back here. For some reason I can't find your faces. So here's the question. What factors do you have before you start making your characters? What factors do you think about before you start making your characters? What are some? And I say either just raise your hand or put it in the chat. Will work too.
I can say something.
Yes,
if that's okay.
Mm-hmm.
One aspect that we have thought about is whether, since we are always working with the students' preconception when we do things, then one thing is that if it's a nowadays character that is going to live in the society today, we can do the whole figure. But if we are going to do a medieval historical storyline, then we don't let the children do the whole character first. We just let them do the face. And then once they've learned more about the time they are dealing with, then they can do clothes and things later on. But that makes us just start with the face, because faces look the same whenever.
Interesting. Krista, you put something in. Is that similar to what you wrote in the chat?
Yeah, yes, I was thinking of the place, the time, and the theme, or maybe the assignment, or the thing that yeah, maybe the frames.
Okay, good. Any others frameworks before you start? Yes, Hanna.
Yes, I'm thinking a bit the same, that you have to think what kind of beings fit this story, or you have to think the overall, and then after you kind of decided we want this to be humans and some specific society or historical setting and so on. It's also a bit about the practical stuff. Who is going to have this session, and what kind of materials do we have? How much time do we have? How can we make them playable and interact them in the So it's not only your desires, it's also the practical stuff. I
Good. Katina.
Was that me? I agree with those of you who have spoken, and could add the children's age. What are they capable to do? And you already named the playability. How can you use these characters without breaking them? So that's an important thing, especially with younger children, preschool children and grade 1 to 2, because they want to play with them. And it's sad to say no, it breaks down. And another thing, as class teacher, you, at least in Finland, you also sometimes and quite often are the art teacher. And you have the art curriculum in the background and different material, different perspectives, and the face. How can you change a face to visualize different feelings and that sort of things? So the art issue comes there too, and I think it's a wonderful thing to integrate this. And it's also, when you talk about time, then you can use the art lessons for the making of the characters and so on. So it's much to think about.
One of the things you added there that I haven't thought about is the ability for feelings. You know, how can we show that? I've got some things that I wrote, and you guys were just, it's like bingo, bingo, bingo. It's everything that I wrote too. I'll show you what I'm going to try sharing my screen, and I'm going to lose you. I think the reason why is it's recording, but I'm not sure. So I'm gonna share my screen anyway, and I'll show you what I wrote for my screen. Let's see if I can. There we are. Materials or resources available. Just right there, we talked about. You guys added on, in addition, the age. You know, what can they do? Storyline. It just takes a lot of items, and our experience being out in the high schools, that material isn't available as much as it is in the grade school. So that's a factor that we're thinking about. And time available. How much time do we have? Lovely with the interdisciplinary, getting the arts and crafts into involved. I did a workshop with electro vocational teachers, and they don't have arts and crafts, but they had design. So, you know, we had to look around how we could use that time well and still develop the characters. You guys talked about this, the character's appropriateness. Ylva, what you said about the face going up to something larger, more appropriate, you know, learning about what they needed to, what they would look like at that time. That is a great way of processing the characters. I share with an experience I had in 8th grade when we jumped into doing a storyline without a lot of experience with it. We kept it very open, that they could be whatever they wanted. They were people, and we did a refugee storyline. Well, one of my students decided to be a baby that couldn't talk. That was an issue. So there's some guidelines, or an animal. Yeah, it could be an animal, but is that animal, can it be part of the character, a part of the storyline? And then just what you guys said, the age of students. Now, I looked at the age of the students as one of the things we've experienced with some, not all students, but at the upper level, the college student level, there's an embarrassment about it. It's hard to make a connection. And so age of students for us has also been, how can we help our student teachers connect with those characters that they're making? The picture I show on the left is one that we tried, Christina, my colleague, and I tried to think about electro-vocational high school students. And so we thought, okay, well, maybe the characters were going to be key cards, and that they were going to use these key cards. The idea was to make it more authentic, trying to bridge that gap of age, because having a sock puppet or another type of puppet for some is difficult. We had mixed experience with that. Some of them were good, but what we found out was the key card was also very far away from the faces. And so it was hard to make a connection with that. So there's not an answer, but just some of the, I guess what I'm thinking of, questions and things that building characters need to be addressed and thought about before going on into a storyline. And then I stole an idea from Magga. Good morning, Any Dog. And that is, again, this opportunity to build a relationship with the characters. She talked about that we need to help build the character's identity, or the pupil's identity. And I have a slide with that, but the growth of identity. And I thought that also has to be some sort of framework or discussion before character building. So in this workshop, we were going to look at some technical opportunities. And that's something that happened for us when we did our digital storyline last spring. I have two colleagues here that were part of that, but we did the whole storyline online with 70 something students, I think 73 student teachers. And what we found was that there was a digital support for creating these characters for our student teachers, and that our student teachers some of them identified a little easier online using the digital technology to help them build their character. So what I'd like to do as a workshop part of this is that I'm going to show you what we did and how we did it. And then I'd like to have you all try, and if you've done it before, fine, but if not, then maybe this will be a learning opportunity to how you can use Zoom technology to help build a character, possibly. Okay, everything we're going to do right now I don't have these things in front of me because I'm sharing my screen, but if you look at the picture, and you should be able to find in your Zoom this video or camera icon, and that's how you turn off your screen or on your screen. And everything we do is going to be at this arrow here from here. Okay, so I'm going to we're going to try to build up characters in the next hour. Very short, very quick, but in order to build up characters, I'm going to also give you a setting. Here's the setting. And the setting for today's workshop is Glasgow, the climate change conference that just happened. So as you're thinking about your character, you need to also be thinking about putting yourself at this conference. I'm not going to say what kind of character you're to be, but we're at the conference together in some manner. Are you with me so far? And I can't see you, so you just have to say yes, if that's it.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, good. Okay. Then we're going to go first step. As I said, the whole building this digital background or digital character is done in by the icon. And if you press on that icon, let's see if I managed to show a picture here. Hang on. There we go. Come on. There it is. That icon there. You should get a menu that looks like this. And what you will be doing is clicking on for a virtual background. I can give you a little time to see if you can find it on your own right now. And I can't see you if you found it or not. So I'm gonna just see if you try to find it there. If you're working from your mobile, this is going to be a much more difficult thing for you to do. You may just have to listen and not participate. Because once you've done that, you should get a menu of different backgrounds. And if you look where I'm pointing to right now, there's a menu of backgrounds. Zoom provides you with a bunch of plain ones that you can use no matter what. I've added different backgrounds just for fun. And that's what our students did too, that they just had fun on adding different backgrounds. But if you choose a background, for example, this green one, then you should see yourself that looks like something like this. So now you've got a background that's you.
I'm sorry, but I don't have any backgrounds on my.
No backgrounds, even zoomed in.
No,
Anybody else don't have any backgrounds?
it's just said none or blur for me.
Oh.
I think you need to
haven't any.
upgrade the version.
Mm.
I got an old MacBook, and it's not updating anymore. But I tried to do it with my phone.
Oh, okay. And did it work?
Let's see. I'm joining now with my phone.
You have an option where you can put up your own image. So that is another way of doing it.
Mm.
Browse an image that you have on your computer instead of use the.
No.
But you had to have the program updated to the last version.
Yeah. So I think I'll give you the presentation if you really want to look. It's also on YouTube. It's probably more easy to use YouTube to help you do it. Because then once you've got a background, you can also do some more fun things about your with your face. And that's what they call video filters. If you are I'm kind of putting my finger or my pointer on it, it's called video filters. If you're a Snapchat person or know about Snapchat, that's, Snapchat is what it is. You're filtering your face or background for different things. So if you click on, for example, I got a picture of the glasses, or you click on a mustache, then your face becomes something else. I'm going to stop sharing and I'm going to see how you do it, because what I want is to try it. This is a picture of the team that we did a storyline that we just had a hoot of trying to figure out different characters and using different backgrounds. And so this is an example of what we did at the college. Carol, do you recognize the school in the background of my picture? Is she here? She was here. At the university, and I was supposed to be Sally Harkinson. I was going to be.
Yes, it's Georgian Hill College.
Yeah, that's what I was supposed to have in the background. So I'm going to change. I'm going to get out of my share screen so I can see you, and then see what kind of backgrounds you changed, because I can't. Oh, there you go, Margareta. Joanna. Are you guys able to do it, Mattia? Or do you have an old background?
I'm
Hello.
sorry.
No, we are trying, but we haven't
Updated version. Yeah, so we can't do anything.
Okay. But as you can see,
Sorry.
there you go.
But we know how to do it.
Okay, good.
Wow, Eva.
Well, there's all sorts of different fun things you can do. That's what I was going to say. What we found when we did this is the shoulders sunk down and our students opened up. We showed up for the first day. Halma and Gita, if you're still here, you guys can talk about it. But the first day, the students laughed because we were laughing at the same time, and felt like that was an introduction to being able to do something alternative, which storyline is, and using characters is also very alternative. Now, what you're also going to experience is what we also experience. If you have the video on, and then all of a sudden, what's most important is what you're changing. People were changing. They had things going on in the background all the time, and different faces. And so we had to do a little bit of experimenting. We weren't sure with screens off, so that if it was an important issue, it was an important thing that was going on, then the screens went off and the filters went off, or something that allowed for, now it's a little bit more serious, because otherwise it was a lot of fun. and then it just became fun, which storyline is, which the approach is, but we're also working into trying to move it beyond that, beyond to this, the happening, and into learning for that. Comments before I go on?
I think it's great, and then also I think we discussed that in Stockholm, that you as a person are not forced to be your character. Suddenly, I became the character, I suppose, here. So that is might be a challenge to handle that, but otherwise this is really fun, I think. And I think it's very good to try to do this online too, on COVID times. Sorry.
I have a question. Has anybody of you used avatars with the older students, digital characters that you can change all sorts of things? I think, and I heard, but I've not done it for myself, with older students. They could like it because it's their word. Word to, and they are not themselves. They are still characters to move around and make all sorts of things with.
I've read the same thing. I've read and heard, and I know people in Norway have been doing it that way. So yes, but I haven't done it. We haven't, and we didn't do it. We thought about it. Actually, that was one of the discussions before, and it just turned out this was easier for us. But and I have later on a slide talking just about what Eva brought up now, and that is, do you talk as the character? Are you the character, or do you talk about the character? And that is really an interesting, not an answer that we can get to, but interesting things we need to reflect on, and possibly have to do with age and situation where we're doing storyline. So we might come back to that and see what happens if we talk about that. Okay, I'm going to share my screen again and lose you for some reason. I'm going to lose you again, but I think we can do that. I can handle it. I took this again from today from Magga, and this whole idea of transforming learning and experiencing a disorienting dilemma. We use that in Stockholm too, so it's not new, but I kind of forgotten it. And the picture that Magga shared, where these pupils are the tree, they become the tree, just is so for me visual on how these characters can and possibly open up for transformative learning. However, I was asking myself a question today, and again, it's just something that popped up this morning. If we say, or not if we say, when we say self-reflection is crucial in this process, if we're using Mesiro's transformative learning process, and the second step is self-reflection. the question I asked myself, and it's just a question. Oh, I'm sorry. You also said you need to include pupils' identity process. So we're thinking about the pupils inside, and their identity process needs to be part of this transformative learning. So the question I have is, can the characters help this identity process, or do they get in the way? Does that make sense? Because if it's my identity that I'm trying to process, do we have research or knowledge that the fact that my character is doing this, that I'm going to make that connection? Does that make sense what I'm trying to say?
Yes, I think so. And I think it would help them, because they can't create a character without starting from themselves.
Which is exactly what you were saying also earlier today about the learning process starts bodily within ourselves. Yeah. I would be interested, now I'm interested in the research of that and seeing if we can identify that connection, that bridge. I think there is in drama, but I don't know as if we've well, you have that because of your, anyway, I'm thinking out loud. Any other comments?
I think that is something that needs to be in the head of the teacher, because I mean the connection you can make between yourself and your character, it's not going to happen automatically in all students. But if you have a teacher that has thought about the matter, then with the right key questions, that could happen. But it needs to be planned, as everything else.
Which maybe, because that's one of the things later on today in this presentation, I've tried to present some different ways of getting that connection, and maybe that's the answer there, or that's my bridge, is how do we make those connections?
I could add to this. Yes, I agree, and I agree with Ylva. It's much upon the teachers planning and thinking, but I think it's not only the one character that this specific kid is making or creating, it's also the variation of different characters and listening to different variation of identities and sort of mirroring himself to those variating characters and their thinking, and that how do I think and how does my character think versus those. So it's quite complex.
Yes, can I add something, Jeannie?
Because I can't see you, so you're going to have to jump in.
Yeah.
Somebody else has to help me with that, because for some reason all your faces are gone.
Yeah, I was thinking of, because they can encounter disorienting dilemmas that the teacher didn't plan, because that was what happened in the forest when the children found litter and glass and metal in the forest, and this was not planned by the teacher, and then the children reacted as themselves.
Not as the characters, as themselves.
Yeah, and I mean, you can't stop that and say, hello, you have to be in character. Can you just stop react? So, I mean, you never know.
Which to me is not one more a visual or an example of that. Yes, there is those connections between the characters and themselves when they just jump in as themselves in the situation. So, okay, well, I call this as a reflection and a workshop for discussion. No answers here. I thought I'd share with you an experience I had because I've done so much more work at the older age, at the students or teachers and even junior high is where I was in the school. So I was with I was with 4 colleagues for a 1-week storyline with 5 and 6-year-olds. And all of a sudden we had a whole nother ball game because they don't write. You know, we were so much used to having them reflect and write down their notes, and these students are not written literate yet. So what I was met with, without really having planned it, Ylva, we weren't how would I get young people to start developing their character without having the written? And I thought it actually, you know, what I ended up with, and that's what I pictured is, because we didn't know, we ended up doing as a full group, you know, what do you like? Do you like pizzas? And then they raised their hands if they liked pizza, or they stood up. Do you like being with other kids? Yeah. Do you like to laugh? Those kind of things, to help the characters help develop more than just the physical character of their hand puppet. But I thought I'd ask, what do you guys, what people that work with young students, what do you do to, what are the planned things that you do to help develop the characters? That's my question to you guys.
I haven't worked with these young students myself, but I know Sanna Ranweg, who is unfortunately not with us any longer. She has done that a lot, and she told me once that when they were working in preschool with 4-year-olds, they did it exactly the same way as we do with the older children, although there was someone with the children writing down what they said on the chart. And then when they were presenting their characters, they took the chart with the words that someone else had written, and they told what was written on the chart, even if they couldn't read it, because they had themselves told what should be in there, and then they told it again, but with the chart. So it was like bridging over to the writing and the importance of the written word, all just as a start, which I thought was quite clever. So they thought they were standing there reading without reading. That was quite nice.
That sounds like a very, and literacy, you know, to help them with the writing, to see that connection. I'm thinking we had 40 students, 40 pupils. I don't know how we could have ever done that, but maybe that's a little unusual to have so many young people in one classroom. Other ideas, what tips that people do to help? Now I'm just thinking to build that character, to have a connection and know who those characters are, or that character is.
Well, hello.
Yes.
I have not been working with storyline with these young kids, but there are a method in Finland that we call the camera pen, and that means that you can film and tell, you know, keep a diary as a film, that the kids are filming themselves, or you know, that you have the film in the everyday life, and you are talking and then keeping diary at in that way. So that could be something you could do with these small kids.
And I think, at least in Norway, we have a lot of access to technology that they could do that in front of an iPad. You know, there's book creators, that type of, where they talk in their character as opposed to writing it. Well, thank you. We were met with that without having the tools for that. We were a little shocked without knowing how to deal with that. Then we have older students. In some ways, I'm sorry, Krista, I can see that you have your hand up. Is there a comment?
That was my comment.
You were, Krista.
Lower my hand now.
Again, I can only see that somebody's raised their hand and I don't know the face at all. So, okay. One of the things that we say at the college level is that what they call matured out of role playing. We've tried to explain to our student teachers that, young people, they just get into the role. Now I'm hearing that's an assumption that's probably too broad, but our experience with the student teachers is that becoming a character needs more work because they're not as used to playing with it. Besides that, we had the digital we experienced was just the opposite, that they were very used to becoming a different role digitally, but they were not very used to it physically when they're in the classroom. So our experience with the college, and please, Hama and Gitta, if you're still here, jump in and add, because I'm making broad statements that might not agree with everybody. But our experience was that it helped to start with the setting and not the character. That was a starting point to give a place for the character to be. So we've worked with setting first. And then we've also said over and over, we just need to take time. We cannot push it. We've tried to cut time. We have a very strict time frame. We like that. We don't that maybe possibly being at schools, you can nudge the times, but we can't. We've got these days and that's it. We found that when we laugh as the teachers, and I think that's probably across the board, but with the older students that are not so used to playing, that when we are having fun and that we help them to have fun, and that we are also the roles, that we come in as roles ourselves. We're people and we're willing to do it ourselves. Those are the things that we've experienced as older students needed, helped us to develop our characters.
Could I maybe comment a bit?
Please do.
So I think that, well, in my experience with the feedback, it was especially that the teachers play the roles. And that was also in the classroom. I think that is quite essential, that we are kind of not embarrassed to do it and do it, come in as some characters before they have to play themselves. And the other thing with the digital version, I think, yes, it was easier to play digitally, but it was also that we were much more aware that we had to activate the characters often and throughout the whole storyline. So we did activate the characters more. And I think that also was part of the success, that they quite often had to go into these characters, and then they often played in breakout rooms. So they only had to play for the other people in their group and not for the whole class with 70 people. Yeah, so it's just a comment.
Very good, Hama. And I'll build on that as also teachers, our teacher educators. We found that it was also, we were able to bring our roles in and out, and so we could play several roles more easily digitally, as opposed to physically, where you're changing characters and going in. That was more difficult. So we could also bring our roles back in more often in that week. So I think, Helma, that may be something that we're going to look at for doing it. We're planning on doing it physically this year, and that how we can keep that role playing even physically more alive as we got in the digital. Any other comments? Okay.
Yeah, I would just like to mention, because maybe it has been said, it was difficult to get the teachers to, or the students, our students, to go in and out of the character. So we need to think of that in particular next time. But as Hanna told us, we were more aware of that in the digital version, so we activated them more, you know, more often.
Which I'm not sure if I brought up, but one of the things we discussed this year that we were going to do last year was not have a hand puppet or a stick puppet, but instead have a piece of clothing that you know, you put on a hat and then you're the character, with trying to, or a shoe or something that's maybe to bridge that gap. We haven't tried it out, but that was one of the things we thought about doing this year, to help the students, teachers become characters. Which comes in, yeah, but
can I say something there? Because I did that in high school with high school students, and they didn't want to act in front of each other, so we arranged for a speed date. So half the class was sitting with next to a table, and the other half was speed dating, so they had to visit these tables. So they met and didn't have to do it in front of the class, because it was, I mean, everyone talked at the same time. So that was one way to do it.
Good. That's a really good idea, to try to take the pressure off of being watched. That's good. Any other comments?
I wonder if they keep on the clothes or the hats or the shoes, whatever they choose to use as to play the character, if they keep them on for, you know, as long as we are in the storyline, if they will continue to play out their role figure, or if it will be too embarrassing, as Margareta said. So that's something that I look forward to try that.
We will try.
Yes.
We'll tell you at the storyline conference what our experiences were. It is, and I do have a slide where we talk about that, about being in role or talking about your character, and I'm much more open to that distance that Ylva pointed out at our Stockholm meeting that I was before. And we've pushed our student teachers to be in role, and I think we can, because they're student teachers, because we want them to also take on roles as a storyline eventually, if they do a storyline. But I also have a much more humbled and not as, yes, you have to, because of things that we discussed last meeting. Okay, I'm just going back to remind you that this is just a friendly reminder. We're now at the Glasgow Climate Change Conference, and we're going to work a little bit about who you are. We've talked about the physical, and we've talked a little bit about the emotional. And what I want to do is, there's 3 different methods or activities that I want to present. We'll see how much we get to do. I would like to do some of them, so that to just share what we've done at the university level, or at my workshops with the teachers, to help develop a connection, a feeling for the characters. The characters are still not in the storyline yet, so we're still developing the characters. Although these activities can be done at the beginning of a storyline, or we do it often before the actually story starts to develop. These methods can also be taken out and used throughout the whole storyline. So that's not just a one-off. If it doesn't have to be. I brought out some pictures about who you might be thinking of, who you are, be thinking of where you might be. And then this is one of the things that we do for older students, are these identity cards, character role cards also called, that can start to give your character some depth. And so I'm going to ask a question to you, thinking the situation we're in, which is climate change type conference. Little older students, I'm thinking 5th, 6th, 7th grade and older. What questions might be appropriate or interesting on a roll call to help older students develop their character in a given setting? What are some, here's key questions or key categories that you might want to add on a typical roll call card like this?
Do you want an answer?
Yes, please. I would love an answer. I want all the answers.
Yeah, I think it's very powerful to ask them that themselves. What do we want to know about the characters? And then you will have their interesting things, I think, in their answers. Might be what is your favorite meal, or what you're doing in your free time, or why are you in the place, if we are on the place,
like why are you there? Yeah.
I'm just brainstorming right now when I'm speaking.
And I'm writing them. I thought you wrote them in the chat, and I'm writing in the chat because I know we can save these chats and for ideas, because I think that's why I'm doing it, because I'm not sure if I'm going to listen to myself again. So
we very often do that when we work with Storyline. Instead of giving them a paper to fill in, we just put on the question. And then normally I do like this, that I ask them to hold up their characters high so everyone can see everyone. And then the question that Eva popped is asked, what do you want to know about all these characters that we have in the room? Because then they focus on what they want to know. And then if they don't tell me all that I want them to say, I can ask them, is it okay for you if I also put out a question or something? And they always answer yes, because they want to know what I'm thinking of. But then you get things like, what's your favorite music, and what's your idol, or how much do you earn a month, or things like that.
Yeah. So you get it from them, which is based on a storyline approach, right? What do the students want, coming from the pupils first?
Yeah.
Lovely. I've seen the character roles cards as a kind of an easing into the characters, because it's an individual time, it's a quiet time for the students, that they don't have to be sharing, and so I've thought of it as a time where they're able to be more private, which is needed for some of at least our student teachers, because it's really intense with all the groups in this one big room, physically at least it is. The next slide I added because I'm you've already given some good examples, so I'm using it, but I added it because we experienced this fall with a 1 to 7 storyline for teachers, of elementary teachers, where the characters were really kind of shallow. And actually the place that they developed was also and shallow. That's, I'm putting my opinion on them, but we didn't get the depth or the perspectives that we wished for, and possibly what I'm hearing is it has to do with our questions that we ask them. So but I think we as a teacher educators, we need to also reflect on developing widening the perspectives of it, yeah, these are things that we've already discussed. So challenge our students enough. How can we tap into our students' perspectives? And you guys just came up with some of those ideas. Okay, my clock says it's 1/4 till. Can I go to 1/4 after, or am I have to stop at 2? Eva, I'm letting you be. I'm letting you be. I'm letting Eva. I need to have you give me some direction here. If we've got 15 minutes, we'll most likely not. We can't do all the activities.
I think you can do as you have been planned, because we just take it shorter the next session.
Okay.
I think this is very good, and I reflect that we are coming somewhere.
We're moving.
Together we have a lot of experience to share.
Okay. I picked up. This is what was on one of our identity cards from the college, but I picked up these topics I find myself discussing. I picked it up off of a web page for New York Times young writers on trying to get young writers engaged in doing essays and that type of stuff, and conflict issues. And I thought that question there was something I want to add this year, because topics I find myself discussing can be wide. It doesn't have to be climate. It doesn't have to be. It could be. I'm talking about series, Netflix. What is it that I talk about? What is it that uses my time? And I thought that is a neat question that I'd like to share with you guys. And then the last one, but life is good when. I also like, because of so many things being negative and tough, really difficult emotional things going on, that to bring out also, when is it, I'm going to say it in Norwegian, but when is it that I feel good? When is it, when do I have it good? And I thought that was a good question. So, yeah.
I mean, what I'm thinking now, which is coming out of this discussion and also the experience, is that to somehow along developing the storyline, to find spaces where we are able to include the students in a much better way. I mean, I'm only done it physically once, but it's also in line with the new curriculum and the students or pupils' involvement, and the way of doing that through a storyline. So that's an area which I think is very good to explore further.
Good.
I like that one. These topics I find myself discussing. Because it is what it should be, so open. And I really feel that this storyline work has a lot of good things through the characters to put into sustainability issues. And I'm always having my two daughters in the back of my head, and their experiences in school when it comes to working with sustainable issues is not good. So I think what we are doing in the project now is, compared to what's happening out in the school, it's so much better. And I think this is really important. We have gone a long way.
I hope so, Ylva. I find myself, in Hanna and Gitta, please, one of the things that we struggle so much is this time constraint. And I think these are so important, and yet I believe we need time for it too. It can't be done quickly. Sorry for the cats. I'm not seeing your cats, Hanna. I hope they're giving us.
They have been nagging about coming in for quite some time. So they will just sometimes be in the screen. Hopefully not disturb too much.
They're lovely. It's good to have a little bit of life in the group. Okay, here's the slide. Here's the slide that I've been alluding to, and it is something that, Ylva, you got me thinking so much more than I ever have before about this whole thing. Talking as if you are the character, or in role as we call it, and talking about your character. In the next next activities we're going to do, I'm going to let a little bit of back and forth, and maybe ask you to do a little yourself, playing with your own what I'm going to say, your own comfort zone, and push into talking as a character, and then also talking about your character. It's also a difficult thing because it actually requires that you have a character, which we went very, very quickly past that role card that was the last slide here. So some of what we're doing today, we're going to have to just pretend, get your, maybe if you have a character that you've done before in a different storyline or something along that lines. So that's here's that. So there's the, I guess when we do these next activities, I'll show you, I want you to be thinking the difference between talking as your character, I'm the character, and talking about your character in there. Okay. First one is what they call four corners. And I'm guessing a lot of very professional teachers out here have done it. We did it also digitally. We found a way to do it digitally with breakout rooms. The method is this, that you're thinking now. I'm going to ask you to be thinking as your character. You are now this person that we have now developed a little bit with an identity card. You're thinking as this character, and I'm going to give you some statements. And as your character, I want you to go into the breakout room, which, Daniel, I think I may have you need to have you do that for me, or Johanna, if you can make 4 breakout rooms, 1, 2, 3, and 4, and allow people to choose the rooms. Does that make sense?
I'm not sure if I have the permissions to
do that. Okay, wait, you know what? You guys will wait for me. I will recreate, let people participate, choose, recreate. Okay. Okay, I just did it right now, so I'll do it fine. So I'm going to make a statement. I'm going to show you a statement, and then you're going to take a decision from your character's point of view. The answer, yes, is room 1 in the upper left-hand corner. Maybe is in room 2. That's the next first left-hand corner. Then the right-hand corner is room number 2. Number 3 is no way. And room number 4 is an open. And what you do as your character, you go in to that room and discuss why you chose that. Why did your character react in this way? Why did your character answer in this way? Does that stand? Does that understand? Do you understand what I'm trying to do here? Yes. Okay, we're going to give it a shot, and let's see if I can find the questions. Here's the first question, or the first statement. Do you, now you're thinking as a character, do you believe in unconditional love? Think about it, and I'm going to see if I can open all rooms. Yes is 1, maybe is 2, no is 3, and open, just leave it open, is 4. Okay? Choose a room, go in, talk about why your character said that. Do you guys get the rooms? Can you choose them? Yes, you can. Anya did. Oh, good. Eva did. Are you able to do? Yeah, Carol is going to be able to join. Carol, can I put you in room 2 just for the sake of putting you there, and because there's only one person there?
Sure. Yeah.
Okay. I'm assigning you to room 2,
Yes.
and so you've got.
Okay.
Okay. You're in. And then Johanna, can I put you with Margareta? She's in room 4.
Yes, of course.
Just doing that, just so that she has somebody.
So hi, Jeannie.
Oh, I don't have you on my list.
No, I shouldn't go in. I have to. You are running this breakout rooms thing here.
Yeah,
because
I
I
am.
have to run someone here in the close to the house are running some diesel motor, so people can't sit here. So I have to go and check what it is.
I'm perfectly fine. You've made me a co-host, so
yeah, perfectly. I'm coming in 5 minutes.
the only issue is I've lost the video, and I've done this many times, and I don't know what. I think it's because we're
but it shouldn't affect.
I know
it shouldn't affect your.
I know
your screen, but you should be able to view it as you like. I'm not sure if they have changed anything.
It's really weird because I split my screen. I usually have a split screen. I have the pictures on the one,
and I haven't done any spotlight or fixing anything, so it just go with the original thing. So
just makes for an interesting looking at nobody. So, that's happened.
Okay, I'm back soon.
I'm gonna close the room too.
Yeah, perfect.
Hi.
Was it real quick?
Yeah, it was good.
Is it okay quick? Okay.
Yeah.
Well, now see, I stopped sharing so I get to see people for that. I'm going to ask, because we're a group of, we know each other. Were you able to use the pronoun I? Because in this breakout room, you were to talk as a character, I. How did it go?
It was hard.
It was hard, yeah.
Comments, why was it hard?
Because it was no story before. We just have to act as our character right away, and that was really hard. Because we are still thinking like ourselves.
Yeah. Good. I think you're right. That's why we as a group have put a lot more time into the setting so that it becomes a little bit more of a situation. Magda talked about all learning happens situationalized, and we really don't have a situation yet here. So good.
Yes. And I think we haven't introduced to each other.
No.
So I think that would be better if we had before.
Yeah.
So.
Oh, that's true. I hopped over that whole "who am I?"
Yes.
That's true. Yeah.
For us, the answer was defined. Who am I?
What was your answer? What group?
It was easy to act and to go into my character because she went to the room no and find 2 no sayers, and that was easy for us to act and know each other that way.
That helps too when you know each other. One of the things that Christina, my colleague, has helped me to help student teachers get into the role is ways that you ask the questions. Now, when, like, if we were physically, or I didn't go into the breakout rooms, I didn't use time, but if we go into the break rooms or go into the group physically, and you're listening to them talk about, and if they are talking about he or she, yeah, that Christina's taught me how to then ask the question, oh, you think that, and just answer, or ask the question, what do you think? And not push and say, oh, you have to talk like the character, but just ask so that you're not talking about that third person, but you're talking about you. And that's helped some students, not all, but some students go, oh yeah, he or I, they go back to that different pronoun use of I instead of he or she. We're going to try one more. Yes, we're going to try one more. And this time the question is, use the character as a third person. And if you look at the question, oh, now I have to share my screen again. Hang on. If you look at the question, I tried to change it. Yeah, I tried to change it so that now we are distancing ourselves to do you believe in, it's not that, it's now, does your character like to meet new people? Does your character like to meet people? Yeah, shall we recreate? We're going to do that. Recreate. Choose a room. Does your character like to meet new people? Interesting. You're still here, Ann-Katrin? We could talk.
Jo, tyvärr, för jag måste börja packa ihop mig. Jag vet inte om du hörde mig, jag är på väg till Vasa.
Nej, jag hörde det.
Så jag ska flytta på mig, så jag lyssnar och försöker packa ihop mig samtidigt, för det där, min skjuts kommer om en stund. Så kommer jag att försöka delta bäst jag kan genom telefon, men det är lite sådär.
Helt topp.
Så därför är jag inte.
Jeg tenkte mest deilig å snakke med noen. Jeg skal ikke gå inn til rommene, men alle fikk et rom. Altså, men ingen som gikk til den åpent rom. Av den pleier å være veldig interessant hvorfor en velger åpen. Altså at det ikke er noe ja eller nei.
Nej, precis.
Det pleier å være veldig interessant å høre.
Ja, men själva övningen är ju fantastisk för det där. Jag har aldrig tänkt på att man kan göra den så här online. För vanligtvis så gör jag ju det i ett rum.
Ja.
Hörn och vi går dit som tänker så här och diskuterar varför ni har valt det här och så vidare. Men det här är ju ett fantastiskt sätt.
Ja, det funkar ganska bra egentligen. Vi gör det. Jag tror jag close the rooms. Det är kort tid, men jag tror folk vet vad det är. Så.
I think we need a small break before you go into the another session.
Okay, I think so too. And I think to end, because the next, ska vi gå over till den åpent, vad heter den som Daniel och dem open.
Yeah. Open space. Yeah, it's after this session.
Okay. When you
before that, we will take a little break.
To take a break, we need a break. We need coffee break. Men, before we do that,
finish, please.
Yes, any comments, any reflections on the difference between talking with the I and talking about the he or she?
I thought, can I come in, although you can't see me?
Yes.
I thought it was easier to talk in the third person because I was somewhat distanced from it. And this sounds a terrible thing, but I wasn't speaking as me. So it didn't matter too much if it was exactly correct. I did put over genuine feelings, but I felt that bit removed from it. So that was, for me, it was a easier thing to do.
Yeah, we agree.
Yeah, I mean, because I could go into a role. I've been to this climate meeting for years before, and I could go into, a role I had as an activist doing the marches and the lobbying. So that was easy. So I was thinking maybe if it is it like that, if students or pupils can somehow relate to the character, it's easier to talk and to be the character and express itself somehow.
I feel it's easier to use the I version, but it was so short and we haven't developed the character so much, so it didn't matter very much. But for me, because when you're playing the character, then you're talking as if you are the character, so then I feel that's maybe easier. But I also think it depends a bit of how similar you are to the character. If it's something very opposite or something that is not maybe a nice person to play, it will be much more important to use the third person. So yeah, I think.
We have Anna has been working with the drama and storyline at our school a little, and the children, even if she's just wearing a hat, they think, oh, it's another person, and it's quite funny. And I really don't do this kind of drama so often. So for me, it's a difficult thing. I prefer to have my character and point at him or her. So now I feel a little bit silly, but I think the children, they like the mix of this.
But are you sure when you say the children, you say the children as if they were a group? But I mean, in a class of 30, you might have 5 of them that love going into role, 5 of them that rather be sick than having to come to school to go into role, and then 10 that can do it if the teacher tells you. But I mean, you can't sort of assume that all the students are children as a group.
No, of course. But if you can choose, if you have the face, you can choose whatever you want to go into it. And I think to allow the possibility to go into it or not is quite fun and good for many. And if the teacher do it the same, I think you show a model. Here we can play. Here it's okay, freaking out. So you can do both. Just to come to the real questions and discussions that we want to discuss.
What we want to go into, yeah.
We haven't, or I haven't done so. This is my first storyline that is going on as now, but I usually do these short characters. I have a play mustache, you know, in my locket in the classroom, and then I put some mustache on and become some guy. and it's just so lovely to see when the kids, you know, they start, it's so nice to see their faces, because they think that, okay, it's not that bad to, you know, it becomes, you know, more relaxed.
So even with the younger, because you're second graders?
Yeah.
Yeah. So even with the younger ones, to see that there's some play.
Yeah.
Well, and I do think, you know, they younger people are more quick to play. Also, they just are, and we're working at getting our student teachers to learn to play and be part of playing, but it's not. Besides online, I'm so sorry, but that's one of those things. Gaming is a wonderful world of fantasy and playing, and so we have a group of young, often boys, not always boys, but often boys that have been playing role playing for years online. So if we can also make that connection for our student teachers, that might be a help there. Okay, I'm before I go on, or Eva, I am trying to read your signals here. Take a break right now, because that's I'm on 27 of 38 slides, so we can stop and then go on to the next part and take this type of thing up in another time, or where do we need to go? You're muted.
How much time do you need to
I think what would be I think actually 15-20 minutes would be a nice round. And so if we took a 5-minute break just to get some fresh air, look outside, and then come back at quarter after, I could be done by 2:30. I would just be done by 2:30.
Okay. Is that okay for the group?
I just think we need to take a break.
Yeah. 5 minutes.
5 minutes.
Yep.
Different degree. So for example, I might let's see if I can find one of the questions. On the scale from 1 to 6, or from left, very liberal, from very left to liberal, or right, very, very conservative, where does your character, or where do you stand politically on the environmental issue, for example? So as the character, you would go and say, okay, I'm very liberal. I'm thinking going to live in a commune. We're going to live only off of our own land, or something. Whatever you decide is very liberal, and you stand on the one side of the line. Then very conservative. I don't think there's a climate issue here, where it's all, maybe put that on the other side of that. The characters go and move their place to that place. Then you split the line in half and make them talk, and push them to talk with the different extremes of why they chose those extremes. We can't do it physically, but you can do it actually online. And this was just an amazing thing to see done with all the students, done with the whiteboard in Zoom. So I just thought I'd show you that it's possible. We're not necessarily going to be able to really reflect a lot about it, but just show you the possibilities of doing it on Zoom online. So let's see if I can do this share. I'm going to change a new share, and now I'm going to share a whiteboard. And if it's programmed correctly, you should be able to write on this whiteboard yourself, so that you can be actively part of this whiteboard. Let's see if it works. I have a question for you. Do you see a whiteboard now? You gotta tell me, because I don't see your faces.
Yes.
Okay. Okay. Then what I'm going to do is draw a line from A to B where the scale is, here is 1 being not at all here, and the scale here, let's see if I can do this differently. 10 here, meaning very, very much, a lot. And the comment, or the thing I want your character to take a stand on is, let's see if I can find my notes. To what extent do you see yourself innovative, creative, innovative? See if you are able to go up and find a pen to share and put your mark where you're at. 1 being not at all, 10 being a lot. Can you put your own self? Are you able to do it?
Where do we find the pen?
Pen is up at the top. White. Can you see this now on my screen, or you can't? If you go all up to, if you push your cursor up to the top, you should, if it's worked right, something that's called whiteboard pen. It's right next to the pause. I don't know if you
have to, I found it, you have to go to view options in the top panel and select annotate. Then you get the menu bar.
You have to do that?
Yes.
Oh, okay, because mine just does it automatically. So you go into options, or where it says more, and then, yeah, Eva's got that. Yeah, Eva's on there. And I can see who's doing it. Helma's on there. Margareta's on there. What on the online part of it did for us is you could see where people were, where the full groups were. Yeah, Nav Sweden's up there, somewhere up on top.
I'm sorry, where did you find the pen?
I didn't find it
view
either.
options in the top.
Oh, okay, yeah, there.
Yes, and then annotate.
Yes. And
Yeah.
then you put text, yes?
You can put text, you can, so like here, I put text and I could say, I don't know.
Oh, that's the text.
Yeah,
Oh, but I don't find the pen on mine.
You don't find the pen. Can
You
you
take draw.
Draw?
Yeah, it's under draw.
Draw there, okay.
Yeah.
No?
Yeah? No?
Okay.
Okay. So I'm just, for here, I'm very innovative. Very, Ylva, I agree. What you can do.
Now, my character, not me.
Thank you, lovely. You can, as a host in this situation, decide whether or not names show up or not. And I'm going to take you guys out, unless anybody wants to write something more that I'm not doing it. But you see how it works, right?
Yes.
Okay, good. We're going to stop sharing this, and then I'm going to go back to you guys. As a host,
where did you find this? Where do you find the whiteboard? I mean, I found the pen eventually, but where do I find the whiteboard?
When you go to share screen.
Yep.
And I think you can do it now because I think all participants can share screen.
Yep.
Then you got something that says screen 1, screen 2, screen 3, and whiteboard. But maybe I have it and you don't if you don't have an updated version. Do you see it?
Nope.
I saw it.
You saw it.
You need the latest version, I think.
Yeah,
I don't have it either.
No, so. Thank you.
And I don't work so much on Teams, but I have heard that Teams has something very similar that you can do also, but I haven't worked with it and played with it for that. So there's different things you can do with it, but it makes it more interaction for it. And again, if you're asking the right questions, then you can start getting your characters to be more developed into it. Then I'd like to show, I'm going to share the next screen, because this was what the team came with. And what I thought about her tools that I'm going to take with me in my own work now is that it added a third dimension to it, or fourth, a deeper dimension. You know, one line is so two-dimensional, you're either or, and yeah, there's different grades. But because of her way of having a cross and that in between, I felt like the reflection became more in depth and more, more critical learning. I don't know if anybody else had that thought, but those are the same tool could be used in character development. So, yeah. There we are. Okay, so that's the first one, and then I'm back into something that I actually started my thinking on this, and how do you explore emotional reactions? And this is Ylva that I'm repeating. This is my takeaway from Stockholm, also from Ylva, is okay, how does your character feel? Use that word feel and be comfortable with using that, which I have not been. But then the next question, who does your character talk to? Which I thought is very reflective on, okay, we appreciate dialogue. We see how this interconnection with people is important. As adults, we see that, but by asking these questions for our student teachers or our pupils, that maybe we can help them start seeing the interconnectionness of dealing with emotions. And then the third question that just hit me in my heart, who would your character like to talk to? And I'm sharing these not as my own questions, they are Ylva's questions, but I feel like those questions are what are important, and I will, and I hope we as a group bring further to our storylines. Comments about that?
I think all questions to the characters is good to ask, and I also think it's important to don't have the rush when you work with it, because you need to ask deeper questions. Why do you think it is so? You can go deeper in the dialogue, and also ask, do you think there is many people in your neighbor who has the same as your character? You can do some parallellkopplingar.
Connections.
Connections to make our eyes open and see. It's important that you sometimes say hello to the people in the elevator and at the bus, and when you go out, we make each other coming alive. Mm-hmm. And you can go so much into this to work with deeper understanding how people need people. Mm-hmm. My English is not
You're doing great. You're doing great. This is something, the final thing I want to touch on, then I'll quit. And that is these emotional words. This is from Panu Piccola that we had speak to us in Stockholm. And I was fascinated by the choice of words and his lists. But then I was also taken back as a language teacher, how we possibly have an assumption that students and student teachers and pupils know these words. and that I thought I would share with you one tool that I would call, a subject loop, which we say in Halden, or as a new term that Magga taught me, knowledge seeking, going out and trying to find out more knowledge about something. And here's an example of a knowledge seeking or subject loop that might work with these emotional words, because these words are good to have, but I'm not sure even if they're in Norwegian or Swedish or Slovenian, whether or not the pupils know what they mean, or they have an understanding of them. And they have definitely struggle if it's in English, right? So that's a second language issue. So here's a method that I use a lot in my language teaching, and that is you give each group a set of words. So there's a group, either a pair or three, usually not more than that. And they get the set of words. In this case, it would be the ecological words, the eco-anxiety words, right? And then together, they reflect on how much do they know, can they define these words? Do they know what they mean? So they make 3 different stacks. The one stack is the words that one of us knows. So if I'm talking in a group and I say, okay, I know this word. Usually they're written in a little papers like this, notes like this. And I put my name on that paper that says, I know this word. Ginny knows this word. Or maybe it's my partner that knows it. It goes into that pile. And then there's a pile where we all in our group knows, or the 2 know. So that's one pile there. And then the third pile is nobody knows. And given time, you start working so that you want to make your we all know pile be one. And you do that through dialogue. You do that. If it's me that knows the word, then I have to teach it to you so that you know what the word is. It gives an understanding what the word is. And then it can go into the pile that's for we all know. If nobody knows, and now I'm speaking as a language teacher, okay, what are some strategies to learn about definitions? Google, talk to the teacher, talk to the neighbors, helping different ways of finding out what this word means and discuss it. And so that then it eventually can go into the pile of we all know. So that when we ask our pupils or our student teachers to talk about feelings using descriptive words like the eco-anxiety words, then we have an understanding as teachers, or we have a better hope as teachers that they know what these words mean. So it's a language building skill that can be put into a storyline for that. Well, before I go into this last part, so is that part of the subject loop or this knowledge seeking, that part of the method, does that make sense?
Very much so. Okay.
Well, then comes the fun part, because that's just basically learning vocabulary and it can be phrases, it can be a lot of different things. But in our case, emotional words is that we have. But the fun part then is in that same group, you ask them to categorize the words. Total open, don't tell them any categories, or you can if you want, but my experience has been leave it open and let them try to categorize the words in some ways. I've experienced this with lots of different types of words. Sometimes I've had students have short words and long words. So simple as that. I've done this with language teachers where they do words that are adjectives, nouns, and verbs, so they use their language proficiency. In this case, I would probably, in my mind, see that would be categories such as a positive feeling, a negative feeling, and maybe a neutral feeling, something that would somehow categorize these words for the group that's working with them. It doesn't matter, we don't have to agree on it, just that they themselves have a better understanding of those words. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Yeah. It can be done online. I put it on a possibility of doing, but we're not going to do it because of today's issues. My thought here was to remind ourselves as teachers that sometimes we ask them to use words that maybe they don't have a deeper or fuller understanding, and that we can, in subject loops, in knowledge seekings, help opportunities, help them develop their words, their vocabulary. And that's all I'm going to have for today. I did a little bit more than I said I would.
Thank you, Jeannie. I followed the class at Backatorpsskolan this spring, and they worked with the word sustainability for 6 weeks, and I interviewed them afterwards. And I think quite a lot of them didn't know how to explain the word after 6 weeks. So I think this is a very good exercise to do.
Good. I think that's not an uncommon thing, that we assume we have our baggage, and this easy method, which isn't easy, but it's actually quite fun to hear, gives pupils the activity, it gives them ownership of the words and learning the words. And I have used it in a lot of situations, so it's an easy method to use.